So today we're going to be talking about interviewing strategies and professional attire. So what's in it for you? So today we're going to learn about the purpose of an interview. We're going to understand what employers are looking for in an interview. We're going to talk about the different types of interview and how to prepare for an interview. We're also going to talk about how to answer the interview questions utilizing the STAR method. And we're going to end by talking about what to wear to an interview. So career competencies. Career competencies showcase an individual's knowledge and behavior that lead them to be successful in their career. The National Association of Colleges and Employers have defined 8 competency areas. These are the top areas that employers across all industries are highly valuing. So competencies are transferable and valued in every industry. A person's knowledge and behaviors that lead them to be successful in a job or throughout purposeful work. Careers and work environments change continually, and individuals need to be able to understand and be able to adapt to those changes. Using competencies in your career is going to promote an overall well-being, ability to adapt to change, as well as give individuals a sense of purpose. So here are all of the 8 competencies. We have critical thinking, communication, teamwork, technology, leadership, professionalism, career and self-development, and equity and inclusion. And the 3 that we're going to be focused on today is going to be career and self-development, professionalism, and communication. So the purpose of an interview. The purpose of an interview is to exchange information. You and the employer are going to engage in a 2-way conversation in order to exchange information. You're going to establish that positive relationship. So you're going to tell the interviewer why you are a good asset to their company or to their industry. And so again, it's going to be that 2-way conversation. And in the same opportunity, you're going to be gauging some information from them as well. So this is the purpose of an interview, to be able to exchange information from interviewer to interviewee. So what are interviewers looking for? The magic question. So how are you successful in an interview? What are they looking for? So does a candidate have the skills to do the job? So in every job, you'll see the description, you'll see the qualifications, the skills, the things they're looking for in a candidate. So do you have the skills to do the job that you are applying for? So this is what the interviewer is looking for. They're looking for what results will the candidate produce consistently over time. Throughout your time at that job, what results will you render? How will you help that organization or that industry? And last but not least, how well does the candidate understand the job's goals, methods, and measures of success? So it's really important that you understand the job and you also understand the company or employer that you're interviewing for, because you want to make sure that the things that you assess, the skills that you have, align with their goal and their measures of success that they are looking for in that candidate. So when thinking about preparing for an interview, these are some of the questions that you want to think about, because these are the things that interviewers are looking for. So first impression. So I'm going to take a couple seconds just to think about this. So first impressions are made within what? Do you think it's 1 to 2 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds, or 4 to 5 minutes? So I'll give you a little bit of time to think about that. So if you answered 3 to 5 seconds, you are correct. An impression is made within 3 to 5 seconds. So that is a quick impression. So you always want to make a good first impression immediately, because as you see, 3 to 5 seconds is really quick. So that natural first impression is going to be important. And so I'm going to ask you guys a question. So what do you think makes a good first impression? So what does a good first impression look like to you? And I'll give you a few seconds to think about that. And then we will have an opportunity for you to discuss. Now that we've talked about a good first impression and what that looks like, and you all have some great ideas of what first impression is to you, let's talk about some typical interview topics that we will see in an interview. So a lot of jobs will talk about a career objective. So what is your career objective? What do you see yourself doing in 5 years? What do you see yourself doing in 10 years? So what is that objective for you long term? So you will see a lot of topics or questions surrounding the career objective. Next, the knowledge of employer. It is really important that you take the time to research the employer that you are interviewing with. They want to make sure that you've done your homework, that you know about them and some of the things that they are doing, because they have an opportunity to ask you questions. Why do you want to work here? And you want to make sure that you have a wealth of knowledge about that employer. So that's another interview topic that you will see. Personal qualifications. So what qualifications do you have that would make you a great asset to this employer? What are those qualifications? Being able to identify those and how they align with what the employer is looking for. So this is another area in which you want to make sure that you have a little understanding of what your qualifications are and how they align. So career choice rationale. Why do you want to choose this career? Why this opportunity? If you're changing industries, you want to make sure why you are making that change. So what's the rationale for the choice? Next, education. How does your education align with what they're looking for? How does your education help you in this work environment or with this particular job? So that's another area in which you may see some targeted questions around. Experience. What experiences do you have in previous places of employment that could help create, or not create, to help make you a better applicant, right? So how do your experiences align with what they're looking for? Geographic flexibility. So how flexible are you to work? Are you open to moving if it's in a different location? Are you open to remote work for those who may be applying for some sort of work from home situation? So the geographic flexibility. And last but not least, past achievements. So what are some accomplishments that you've had in past workspaces that have been achievements and accomplishments that you can bring to this work environment to help it thrive as well? So all of these are some areas in which you may see some questions come up. So these are some areas of topics. So begin to think about those prior to the interview. So types of interviews. So outside of what we know as our traditional one-on-one interview, where there's an employer and there's an interviewee, there are other common types of interview styles that are being utilized by employers. So you'll see some group interviews. So there's going to be typically several applicants that are interviewing you at once. This is a highly structured format. So it's kind of designed to be able to make comparisons between candidates. So several applicants are being interviewed at once just to see how you align with the other candidates that are applying. So panel interviews. One interview applicant is interviewed by multiple interviewers. So an employer may have 3 or 4, 5 or 6 of their staff members that are interviewing you, or campus partners that are interviewing you at one time. So that's kind of like your panel interview. And so you see this happen a lot in academic positions as well as graduate school interviews, where there's multiple people asking various questions. The next type is going to be a phone interview. So often people utilize this as just the first round of interviews just to gauge some information about you. So they're going to determine if you are a great candidate for their position before they bring you in for an in-person interview. So that's another type. Virtual interviews, they can also be used as a first round interview. A lot of employers are utilizing this since the pandemic as an opportunity to interview a candidate without having to bring them on to their location. And it's going to be carefully organized by the candidate just to make sure that you are making that eye contact. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in a few. But again, this is another way that you may see employers interviewing. So these are just some common types of interviews that you may have. So now let's talk about virtual interviews. So you want to make sure that you test your webcam and your audio in advance. You never want to get to an interview and then your webcam doesn't work or your audio doesn't work. It's the day of and you're like, hey, I can't interview because my webcam doesn't work. So you want to make sure that you test this well in advance. Be mindful of your background. So find a neutral space, some sort of blank wall that's going to give you that professional background. There is an opportunity that you have the virtual backgrounds now on Zoom, but we want to make sure that we have like some sort of neutral space, just some sort of plain background in that area. Conduct your interview in a quiet room. So you never want to have any type of interruptions. You want to make sure that you're in a really quiet space and there's no background noise when you're thinking about having a virtual interview. Dress for success. Even though it is a virtual interview and it is not in person, you want to make sure that you still have on that professional attire. They can still see what you have on, up top. So you want to make sure that you are dressing for success, even in a virtual interview space. Last but not least, you want to look into your webcam. You want to make sure that you're making eye contact with the person that is interviewing you. This is the same thing for an in-person interview, but it's sometimes more difficult for people when they're in a virtual space. So we want to make sure that we're looking into that webcam and we're making that eye contact with the person that is interviewing us. So these are just some tips on how to successfully have a virtual interview. So pre-interview. So let's talk about some things that you want to do before the interview, just in preparation for the interview. So first, you want to familiarize yourself with the role and responsibilities that come with it. You want to make sure you know what the employer is actually looking for to make sure that you find ways to be able to highlight how you are a great candidate and a great fit for that role. So make sure you know the role and responsibilities that come with the job that you're applying to. Participate in a practice interview. You can schedule appointments with the Career Center. You can utilize, we'll talk about this in a few, big interview. So make sure that you are engaging in some sort of practice interview to prepare yourself before the actual interview. So don't be late. Try to arrive at least 15 minutes early to make sure that you are successfully able to find the location and you're in the right place. So 15 minutes is a good time frame to make sure that you're there, ready, maybe get you a drink of water or something that you may need prior to the interview. So just making sure that you arrive within a 15-minute time frame. So research the company / organization. So this one is really important because you want to make sure that you know the organization that you're working for, you know their mission, you know their values, you know some of the things that they're doing. So just making sure that you have a great understanding of the company and organization that you're applying to. So you want to do as much research to prepare yourself for that. So during the interview, so now that you've secured the interview and you're in the interview space, here's some tips. You want to make sure again that you're making that eye contact with the person that's asking the question and the people that may be in the room. You want to go ahead and give that firm handshake, right? So go ahead and get the handshake when you arrive into that space. Don't be fidgety. You want to make sure that you are aware of your hands and your body positioning. So maybe a little nervous. I do understand that because it's a new environment, new space, people you don't know, but we want to make sure that we are not fidgeting and we are aware of where our hands and our body are positioned throughout the time of that interview. Again, dress importantly, dress for success, know the environment, make sure that you are dressed accordingly and you are prepared for that interview. Most importantly, have at least 3 questions ready for the employer. This is where researching the employer can come in handy. If you know about your employer, you know some of their clients, some of their mission, their visions, you can ask some questions around that, right? That shows them that you're interested in their organization because you did the research. So no exceptions, just have at least 3 questions ready to ask the employer at the end of the interview. Typically, that's when they'll give you an opportunity to ask them questions. So an example, so I read on your website that your company is committed to a cleaner environment. Can you tell me how you are addressing this, right? So this shows them, oh, they did the research. They know some of the things that we're doing. And so then they're able to ask a question surrounding that. So again, you want to make sure that you have the 3 questions. Another example, what opportunities are there for professional development and growth? So these are just some examples of questions that you could ask, but making sure that you're intentional in the questions that you are asking. So international students, things to know. So understanding your work authorization status is going to be important, making sure that you understand what that looks like. And I have some resources here linked here that will give you a better guide to understanding the hiring of international students. And one is a resource that we have on our Career Center website. So in the US, it is illegal for employers to ask questions on your immigration status, your age, your nationality, or marriage status. So just so you know, making sure that you are not running into that because that is illegal and illegal practice for employers. So really big thing is you can emphasize the advantages of being an international student. Talk about that diversity. Talk about some of the things that you can bring forth to the company being an international student. So emphasize some of those advantages in your interview. So last, be confident. Make sure you are promoting yourself. You know yourself better than anyone else. So brag about yourself, promote yourself, and talk about why you would be a great addition to their company. So definitely being confident in that. And again, what we talked about from handshake, you want to make sure that you're utilizing that as well. Speak clearly and slowly. It's going to be important. So you make sure they actually understand your responses to the questions and they hear them clear. So we want to speak clearly and slowly when we're talking. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about behavioral interviewing. So what is behavioral interviewing? Behavioral interviewing is the most common interview technique that is going to be utilized by various employers. And the reason they use this is because they want to base the concept and the questions around past behavior, being able to predict future behavior. So interviewers asked to provide examples from previous experiences to see some of those transferable skills. So typically you'll see that these questions may begin with things like, tell me about a time when. So that's leading them to understanding some of the past behaviors and how that could predict some of your future behaviors. So answering behavioral questions, we want to use, answering behavioral questions, we want to use the STAR method. And so the STAR method is an acronym. So we want to identify the situation or problem you solved or encountered. We want to talk about some of the specific tasks or targets. So who, what, when, where, what's required. We want to detail that specific action. So making sure we give them as much detail as possible as to what did you do and how did you do it. And then we want to explain the results. So quantifying them, talking about those accomplishments, some of those recognitions you may have. So this is behavioral questions that you'll see, and then you'll know how to answer them utilizing the STAR method. So an example, again, it starts with tell me about a time. So tell me about a time when you took the lead on a project. So if I was given this in an interview, this is how I would answer this. I volunteered for and was nominated the head of a committee of 4 people tasked with investigating poor customer reviews. I analyzed reviews and discovered that customer wait times were the largest contributor to negative reviews. I then led brainstorming situations with my team to find a solution. The solution was a change in workflow for mechanics. After implementing my suggestion, wait times dropped 18%. So as you see, I was able to identify the problem of the poor customer reviews. I talked about specific tasks that I did. I detailed the action that I took, but then in the end, I was able to explain my results. So after the implementation of the suggestion, we saw that the wait times were dropped. So this is an example of how you would effectively use the STAR method when answering some of those behavioral interview questions. So now I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to practice using the STAR method. And now that you are able to learn a little bit more about that. So again, you want to make sure we identify the situation or problem that you solved or encountered. What was a specific task or targets? Detail your specific action and explain the results, trying to quantify them. So first, tell me about a time you demonstrated leadership. So I'll give you a couple minutes to think about this and to come up with an example. So now we're going to take some time to do another example. So now I want you to describe a time you worked with someone with a different background from you. And I want you to utilize the STAR method as well. So these are just two examples of some behavioral interview questions that not that you may see, but are examples of types of behavioral questions. So we want to make sure that you have a better understanding of how to effectively answer those questions. So after the interview, so once the interview is over, there's a couple of things that you want to make sure that you do. First, you want to thank the interviewer for their time. Thank you for the opportunity to interview for this position. You want to do that in the moment at the end of the interview. Clarify when you should expect to hear back. So you can ask them for a timeline, next steps. So you gain a better understanding of when you should hear back from them, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, a couple of days. You want to make sure that you clarify that. Something that a lot of people do is you want to make sure that you send them a thank you note. So you want to do this within 24 hours. It's a follow-up email, just a simple thank you note after the interview is over. And again, like I said, an email is fine. So now we're going to talk about attire. So there's varying types of attire depending on what you expect to be the job is. So this is smart casual. So you'll see woman and man on the screen. You'll see the man just has on a neutral button-down shirt. He doesn't have on any type of jacket. He has on casual leather shoes. He has on neutral colored pants. So this is a smart casual for a man. And then for a woman, we see she has on a neutral blouse or some type of neutral top, neutral colored bottoms, pants, casual heels, or some flats if you don't like to wear heels and you want to save your feet. So this is just an example of what smart casual looks like when it comes to dressing for an interview. Now we're going to talk about business casual. So we see the man, he has on a button-down shirt. He also has on some sort of jacket, a blazer. He doesn't have on a tie. It's business casual, so you don't necessarily need a tie. You see he has some chinos or slacks. So we want to avoid jeans when we're thinking about being in the business casual. He has on some leather dress shoes. So this is more of a business casual approach to an interview. And then we look to the right, you can see the woman. She has on a tailored neutral colored blouse. She's added a blazer. You could add a sweater to kind of spice it up. She has on some nice dress pants, neutral color, no denim here. She has on some comfortable pumps or some type of fancy flats. Again, if you don't really like to wear heels. So this is the difference of a business casual. So you see we now have added a little more of a business look to this, adding onto those blazers and those sweaters. Lastly, we're going to talk about business formal. So as you see, the man, he has on a formal attire, his blazer, his bottoms, his pants, they match. So he has on a full suit, he has on a tie for the occasion. So this is going to be more of the business formal with the polished leather shoes. So well put together business formal look for him. So then for the woman, we see she has on like a traditional suit. We have the suit pants and the slacks that match the top. So we want to make sure that we are looking at a good color. So the black, the navy, the gray, something really neutral. And then pumps are a great option here. But again, if you don't do heels very well, it is perfectly fine to wear ballet flats, loafers, whatever works for you. So this is more of a business formal look. So how can the Career Center help you with interviewing? So we have a couple of things that we have. We have our big interview, and we have our career meetups. So we're going to talk, so you can get interview tips and strategies from a career coach by making an appointment. We do mock interviews as well. So if you schedule an appointment with a career coach from your career community, you do have an opportunity to get some of those tips and strategies and feedback for interviewing. You can also practice with Big Interview. You can find Big Interview on our website. It is more of a virtual platform. You can watch yourself re-answer multiple questions to get an understanding of how you're answering the questions and how you look in the interview. So these are some ways to kind of get some ideas of how the Career Center can help you with interviewing. We also have career meetups, which give you topics surrounding interview. Those are typically 40-minute sessions. Those are typically going to be on Zoom, held by a coach. And so you can get tips and strategies there as well. So this is just ways that the Career Center can help you with your interviewing. So connect with us. So we are located right beside Atkins Library. You will see this is our website. We have a lot of good resources on there as well. We are also on social media. You'll see all the platforms listed below. And we do have drop-ins. They're held from Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. There's no appointment needed. You can get immediate help. Typically think about a drop-in as just 15 minutes of our time, as other students are going to be dropping in. They are also virtual or in person. So you do have the opportunity to have that virtual quick check-in with someone, or you can come and walk into our office, which again is located right beside Atkins Library. And so thank you all, and I hope this was really useful in helping you learn how to interview for your next position. Thank you all, and you all have a nice day.